After several years of owning the Marantz AV7706 processor, it's time to upgrade to something new. In my recent video, I shared with you my thoughts and review of the Anthem AVM70. Now, I've had this processor in my home theater, demoing it and using it pretty much every single week for way too long. I actually had it probably about 3 months, maybe even 4 months, before I finally had an opportunity to do the review. And the biggest reason is I've just been extremely busy with MWAVE, getting ready for that event. And now that we're past that, and I finished editing the 5 videos that I filmed at MWAVE, and on top of that, 8 seminars from MWAVE. Last night I finished the very last video on that. So if you haven't checked that out, I definitely encourage you to do so. I'll make a separate video on that, but I'll leave information in the description below about the video on demand. So definitely check those out. Now, I wanted to make a quick video to share with you some exciting news. In the review of the Anthem AVM70, there was one issue I was having with it. And I shared in the video, if I can get that figured out, I would definitely be considering upgrading and purchasing the AVM70 for my home theater. The issue I was having was some audio dropouts with Kaleidoscape. I didn't notice it with my 4K player. I didn't notice it with the Rvolution. So I knew it was something tied to the Kaleidoscape, but I didn't know exactly what it was. But I also wanted to get this review out as soon as possible because, like I said, I had spent way too long before making that review. So I did some troubleshooting on my own. I swapped HDMI cables to see, could it just be an HDMI cable issue? And at first it seemed like that resolved it, but then I started having the same thing. And basically what would happen is I would start a movie in Kaleidoscape, and probably about every, I don't know, 30 to 45 seconds, the sound would just stop for like 2 or 3 seconds, and then it would come back on. And that's super frustrating. You can't watch a movie doing that. So I swapped HDMI cables. That didn't resolve it. Then I removed the HDMI cable from, let's say, HDMI 1. I think I moved it down to like HDMI 7, leaving the same actual cable intact, and that seemed to resolve it. Jessica and I was able to watch Guardians of the Galaxy just recently, and we watched through the whole movie with no issues. So in my brain, I thought that was resolved. Well, I ended up, before making the final review, I was doing some more testing, and sure enough, the audio dropouts came back. And so I ended up publishing the video, and the guys at Anthem, man, they've been super cool. They saw the video, they said, man, Michael, thanks so much. We appreciate your feedback on the Anthem, but we believe we know the answer to this. This was addressed about a year ago, and what it came down to was a firmware update. Now, in the Anthem software, like in the app or on the computer, if you type in the IP address to the unit, there's an automatic updates. When it was shipped to me from Audio Advice, that was turned off, and so I just left it off. I didn't turn it on. Initially, I did turn it on and click check for updates, and it says everything's up to date. So in my brain, I thought, okay, we're on the latest firmware. So I turned that back off. When I started having those issues, I did the same thing. I turned that toggle switch on, click check for updates, and it again said, hey, you're up to date. So in my mind, I'm thinking the unit is up to date. I should be on the latest firmware. Well, in the review, I shared that I think somebody had asked in the comments, hey, check the firmware. That was the issue that I was having. And I shared the version that I had, and Anthem reached out and they said, hey, we know the firmware is up to date, but there's one other thing that we want you to check. And so I got on the phone with them, and they walked me through the process, and sure enough, there's 2 things that need to happen. So think of it this way. If you have like in my case, I had the automatic updates turned off. If you have that always on, you don't have to worry about this. But if you have it turned off, and in my case, I turned it on, check for updates, On, I guess, the back end, on the software side of it, it says, yeah, the software is up to date. The app is up to date. But the actual, and I forget the term, maybe I'll put it up on the screen. I'll look back at my email. And actually, I'll put the exact, I'll just make it easier. In the description and in the pinned comment below, I'll have exactly what Anthem referred to it as. So anyway, so I'll just put that there. But basically, it's a two-step process for me to update it. So what happened was we went to my computer, we turned on automatic updates and checked for updates, and it says, you're good to go. So then we come into the theater room and we grab the remote and we go under the setup, and then we go down to, I think it was firmware update or load update. Maybe I can show you some screenshots here. And then we check for the update there. So we physically have to do it on the unit as well. And as soon as I did that, it started downloading the firmware to the actual unit. So it was a two-part process, but I didn't know that was needed to be done. And how could I? So Anthem said they have addressed that with the new slim versions that they introduced not too long ago. I think it was at CEDIA last year. And so those, as well as any models going forward, you won't have to ever worry about that. But if you're having some kind of issues like this, where your Anthem AVM70 or maybe the 90, they're having these audio dropouts, or maybe you got some other bugs, I would encourage you to do that. Turn on the automatic updates in the software side of it, then come to the physical unit. Even on the front of the option, you can hit the setup menu, or the, yeah, I think it's called setup. And that'll take you into that menu, and then just scroll down to where it says load or update the software or firmware, and then that'll have an option there, and it ends up downloading and installing that. But just see if that'll help you. So I just wanted to make this video to let you know that I'm loving what I'm hearing with the Anthem AVM70. There's definitely a bigger learning curve in Anthem ARC, Anthem Room Correction, their software, than it is in Odyssey. Odyssey is really just super simple. I mean, it's almost a plug and play. Typically when I run Odyssey XT32, there's a handful of things that I change, but it's really small. I don't really tweak a whole lot. But there's also there's less flexibility with it too. Here's a prime example, and I don't even think I mentioned this in the review. With the Odyssey and with the AV7706 processor from Marantz, if you're having lip sync issues, there's an option to adjust lip sync. I think you can set it to auto, but you can also set it to manual. If you set it to manual, it applies to every source, and so they all have the same value for that lip sync delay. With the Anthem, it's super nice because I could have a different lip sync delay for, say, the Kaleidoscape versus my 4K Blu-ray player versus my Apple TV versus my PlayStation 5 versus my Arvolution. And so you have, again, just more control, more flexibility. And I shared with you all the pros that I see with the AVM70 over the 7706, but both of these are phenomenal processors. If you're looking at getting either one, I'd love to even check out the new Cinema series from Marantz. I've heard nothing but great things from them, just haven't had an opportunity to review those yet. But anyway, I just wanted to share my update with you to let you know so far all is well with the AVM70. I actually have one of my patrons. I shared with them, anytime I sell any of my gear, I always list it on Patreon first. So if you guys aren't a patron, I'd love for you to be a part of that community. We do Zooms about every 2 weeks. We jump on a Zoom call and just hang out, talk about home theater, talk about life, and just build community. But I also share with them first anytime that I make an upgrade, because I want to give them first dibs on that. And as soon as I post it, one of my patrons said, I'll buy it. And so he's going to end up buying that, and then I'm going to end up purchasing the AVM70 from Audio Advice. And so if you guys haven't heard, Audio Advice Live is coming literally in less than 2 weeks. That's going to be super cool. This is my 3rd year going there. So highly encourage you to come. It's a great event. A lot of 2-channel stuff, a lot of home theater stuff. You'll get to meet your favorite brands and hear some great demos. They've got some seminars and some panel discussions, which I'll be a part of one of those in the home theater space. And but it's just a great, great event. And so I'll leave a link to that down in the description below. But definitely would love to hang out with you and meet you at Audio Advice Live in a couple weeks. So, but that's it. I just want to make a short, quick video, just letting you know, Anthem, you guys came in clutch. Thank you so much for the support and helping me to figure that out. I was going to go back there and start unhooking HDMI cables and try different inputs. But they said basically when I unhooked it from one of them to the other and plugged in the other one, that's why it temporarily fixed it, because it kind of reset that. But then it came back again. So fortunately, with pretty much not any, but a lot of home theater products, these little bugs and glitches in AVRs and processors, and even your players can be fixed and updated with firmware updates down the road. And so I've been super pleased with it. I was watching Greatest Showman. If you guys do not have the Book of Eli, oh my goodness, man, I cranked it up on the gun. What do they call that one? Oh my goodness, what is the name of the scene? It's basically where they're in the middle of the town and the gunfight scene in the town. Ooh, man, it was crazy immersive. You hear the ricochet just bouncing from speaker to speaker. It's really crisp, very, very detailed. Just an immersive experience. And that gunshot, when it goes off, man, it literally sounds like you're sitting in the town. And that's happening. So it gives me chills, man, just thinking about it and hearing that and experiencing it. So if you don't have that, man, go pick it up. It's a cool movie, and it's got a great storyline too. Anyway, I know this video is all over the place, bunch of different topics. Just wanted to give you an update. I'm upgrading to the AVM70. Super pumped about that. And hope you guys have an incredible week. God bless, and we will catch you in the next video.